Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Forensic Focus. I am your host, Charles Amodio with FAZ Forensics. At FAZ Forensics, we specialize in forensic accounting and business valuation. And today I have my colleague, Megan Kelly, with me. Megan, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I know you and I were just talking about football and the New York Football Giants and in the fall and how quickly our summers have gone. But how was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend?
I had a great weekend. I went to a concert on Friday night in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I'm born and raised in New Jersey, and I love it here. And I spend a lot of time, down the shore in the summer. Saturday, I got to see some old friends, and we did our fantasy football draft. So it was a good weekend.
As you and I were talking, we were, obviously excited about the football season starting in the fall and a couple of weeks around the corner, and hopefully the Giants will have a good year this year.
Hopefully, I'm not too optimistic, but and I'm still not accepting of Saquon Barkley and where he's currently playing. So yeah, I know I have to move on, and ultimately sports is a business, but I still don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I think he could have went anywhere else outside the NFC East, and I think we'd have been okay with it. But 90 miles down the road in Philadelphia doesn't sit well with Giants fans. So
no, I'm not happy about
it. Yeah, I hear you. Well, again, hopefully Giants can play meaningful games in December and have a good season, and we'll be looking forward to that. So we'll see what happens. Do you get a chance to go to any games during the year? Or?
I've never actually been to a Giants game before. I went to a preseason game once. I firmly believe that football is a better product on television than it is in person. And I think there are a growing number of people that will agree with me. You've got your food, you can change the channel to red zone when the Giants aren't playing well. And I have a love-hate relationship with the Meadowlands. So I actually have not been to a Giants regular season or postseason football game ever.
Okay.
I spend a lot of time at Citi Field. I like baseball games. I love going in person. I think it's the opposite with baseball. It's better in person than it is on TV. But yeah, I've never been to a Giants game. Maybe I'll check that off the list this year.
Yep, there you go. Well, flipping gears here, I guess we can talk about the Mets. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm a Yankees fans, but I think the Mets have a good team this year. They're on the cusp of the playoffs.
So at this point, they're 2.5 games out from the third wild card spot. So realistically, are they a playoff team? Probably not. The Braves are limping towards the playoffs right now. They're most of their team is injured, but the Mets just can't consistently win. They win a good game, they lose a game the next day. Last night Edwin Diaz blew it in the 9th inning. So I love the Mets, but I tell everyone being a Mets fan is a character building exercise. So I'm not really getting my hopes up. It would be cool if they made the playoffs, but they're not as good as the Phillies or the Dodgers or Diamondbacks. I can realistically say this as a Mets fan. Like, it is what it is.
Well, one of the things about baseball is that, it's one of those weird games, where, like I think football, you get in the playoffs, usually the better team wins. You know what I mean? In baseball, it's just who gets hot, and who matches up better with pitching and hitting and stuff like that. It's really, I mean, look what happened last year. I mean, obviously with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks and some of the upsets, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's nice that they're still playing, like you said, meaningful games right now. They've got a big series against the Diamondbacks this week, and they've got the Diamondbacks and they've got the White Sox later in the week. And in Mets fashion, surely they're going to lose. Like, they're going to get swept by the White Sox, the worst team in baseball, coming up on games that they need to win. I'm not optimistic about it, but you still got to root for your team. So it is what it is.
somebody like the White Sox, because you're expected to beat them, and all the pressure is on the Mets. It's not on the White Sox. They can go out and play pretty easy, right, and not have to worry about winning or losing because their season's lost. There's guys that are out there playing for spots next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That makes it a lot harder for you. I mean, I know the Yankees beat them 2 out of 3 a couple of weeks ago. And obviously you lose that one game. It's like, all right,
They
why are
did.
we
That was
losing?
rough.
Why are we losing to the White Sox, right? But it's
Yeah,
baseball, right? It
I
can
know.
happen.
Anything can happen in baseball, and
Anything can happen.
it's kind of what I like about it. But I've seen every NL East team in my lifetime win the World Series except the Mets. So, it's really starting to weigh on me.
So the Mets, so the last time they won was in '86.
Mm-hmm. I was not
Yeah, I
born.
remember.
So.
Yes, thank you for making me feel old, but I remember it distinctly because my grandfather was a Met fan, and he we had a family reunion that weekend, and it was actually my father's 50th birthday, and at a big family reunion, and I remember he came out of this one restaurant jumping up in the air. He was so excited. It was I think Lenny Dykstra hit a home run and I think extra innings. I'm trying to remember who they beat.
The Red Sox.
No, that was the World Series. It was the NLCS, and I'm trying to remember who they beat for that.
The Astros.
It was the Astros. That's exactly what it was. It was the Astros. Yep. Yeah. It was pretty intense. So.
Yeah, I know my Mets history, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I was at Game 3 of the 2015 World Series, which is the only game they won in that series. I was there with my mom, so that was a really cool experience to have. It was a great game. It was Noah Syndergaard pitched great. My favorite Met of all time, David Wright, had a great game. So at least I have that memory. But the fact that was almost 10 years ago now, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, the last time the Yankees won a World Series was 2009, so that's 15 years ago. Yeah.
They got a good team this year, though. I mean, the back yesterday was.
Yeah, it comes down to pitching, so I'm I'm optimistic, but I mean I'm a realist. I mean I played baseball all my life. I understand the game, and I just feel like I don't think they have the pitching. They definitely don't have the closer, the bullpen, and that's a problem. I think it's a problem, and I think that's unfortunately that's what they need to work on in the offseason. I've been saying that for 5 years now, but it just doesn't happen. So anyway.
Do you think they'll re-sign Juan Soto?
I'm cautiously optimistic that they will. I like having Judge and Soto as a 1-2 punch. They do have a lot. I think they have a lot of dead weight on the payroll. They could probably trim some of that, but I really think they really need to work on their bullpen a little bit. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You can never have enough pitching.
I as a Mets fan, I don't know that we ever got to see Zach Wheeler, Jacob deGrom, Matt Harvey, Steven Matz, Noah Syndergaard all pitch in the rotation at the same time. And we thought we had I'm saying we as if I'm a member of the team, but we as fans thought we had this dearth of pitching, and it just didn't happen. So.
You start naming those types of pitchers. I mean, they were those young studs, and everybody wanted young studs like that. It just never matriculated. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, some guys got hurt, and it just didn't happen. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. So, but in any event, I know you and I could probably talk about baseball and football, all day long, And
I know, maybe we'll start a sports podcast.
I like that. I like that. We should do the FAZ sports podcast. I think that would be great. I really want to talk to you about some of the types of cases that you've that you work on, and maybe talk about that a little bit. So I know you've been involved in some shareholder disputes. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I, background on me is that I started my career in 2010 when I finished college, and it was jumped right into forensic accounting. That's what I did straight out of school, and I've done it since. So primarily, I've worked on shareholder disputes. That's what a lot of my work has been centered around, but also internal control reviews, corporate internal investigations, and economic damages. And what I like most about forensic accounting is that you never really know where it's going to take you. I have I've traveled to India twice on projects. I've worked on the monitorship of the rebuild of the World Trade Center. So I got to go into the building before it was open to the public. That was a really cool experience. And just kind of seeing everything that went into the construction of the building, even from my, work on it, which comparatively was pretty small. To wandering around a hotel on off the turnpike to a cemetery, in Manhattan. It can take you anywhere is what I find to be the most interesting thing about forensic accounting.
It's interesting. I would have to agree with you there. I know that, obviously I've been doing this type of work for about 25 years, very, very similar type work. Again, I focus more on the economic damage piece of forensic accounting, but, unlike, working on taxes or doing audit, you see a lot of different companies.
Mhm.
I've been involved in a number of manufacturing cases where you see some really interesting, manufacturing plants and
Yeah.
process, think in some incredible machinery, to put some like, from like window manufacturers to like yogurt manufacturers to, I've done a lot of work on farms. So going into like chicken farms and things like that, it's really neat the types of industries and companies you get to see over the years. I would agree with you there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my more recent jobs was working with an airline, and I had to fly to different um, facilities throughout the country, and just um, seeing how different processes work. It's another interesting part of forensic accounting that people don't necessarily understand as part of our job as well, as reviewing controls and seeing maybe where weaknesses are and what can be improved. So you really get to learn a lot about so many different areas that you didn't necessarily think was going to be something that you'd be involved in. So that's one of the cool parts about forensic accounting. It's also a little bit stressful. It's definitely, I think, what keeps it fresh.
So what are your favorite types of cases to work on? I know you touched on a few different types of cases, but what are your favorite types of cases to work on?
I don't necessarily know that I have a favorite. I do really like working on anything that requires kind of an investigative piece, whether it's a shareholder dispute and you're looking for um, kind of abnormalities in the books and records, or if you've got an employee theft situation where a bookkeeper of a business is alleged to have stolen money from the business, and now we're brought in to quantify what was stolen and maybe identify how it happened so that it can't happen again. I really enjoy those situations, and sometimes those can get pretty tense. I've been in a few engagements before where we've had to interview employees, or the employee who is, accused of perpetrating the fraud, and trying to get to the bottom of it. And I really having to dig through records and identify patterns and come up with a number is what I find to be the most interesting part of our job. And what I like is that I feel like, and I was just telling someone this over the weekend when they were asking about my job, when someone hires a forensic accountant, they're usually in a bad spot and they need help. So I feel like although that kind of elevates the stress level of what we're doing because the client's typically stressed, I like that we're helping people. That's what I feel like it comes down to with the work that we're doing. Someone is in a bad situation, whether they've been stolen from, I've worked on elder fraud cases before too, and you're helping someone get either restitution or on the path to restitution. And I like that about what we do.
Interesting. You like to read?
Yeah, definitely.
What are you reading right now?
I wish my friends could hear you ask me that question, because again, I was just talking last night to some friends about books, and I'm reading a book right now about owls. And my friends like to make fun of me because I read a lot of nonfiction books. I wouldn't say it's a lot, though. I think I read a good mixture of fiction and nonfiction. But currently, I'm reading a book about owls and how there's a lot of current research on owls that people didn't previously know. And I think the book is called What an Owl Knows. I'm looking right now. It's on my coffee table over here. Yeah, it's called What an Owl Knows. And I picked this book up because my parents have a condo in Vermont. It's in a town called Quechee. And there is a place 5 minutes down the road from them called Vins. And they rehabilitate raptors. So there's eagles, hawks, there's falcons, and there's owls. And I just it's a really cool place. And it's
What part of Vermont is that in?
It's near Woodstock.
Okay.
So it's about an hour north into Vermont. So they've got all these birds there that are birds that can no longer live in the wild because they were injured, and now they're kind of there for learning purposes. So yeah, the book I'm reading now is called What an Owl Knows, and I think it's really interesting. But yeah, I'd love to read the book I read before that. I read The Wager. It's about the ship called The Wager. It was a British naval ship, and it was written by the guy who wrote Killers of the Flower Moon. It was a pretty popular movie recently. But I do read like fun fiction books too. I guess it hasn't what I've been reading recently.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so, what do you like to do outside of work? I know you like baseball, and we talked a little bit about football there, but what do you like to do outside of work?
I still play softball. I play slow pitch softball. I was a competitive softball player from a very young age through college. I was a catcher, which I know I'm biased because I was a catcher, but I feel like being a catcher really kind of prepares you for, if you do it right and you do it well, can really prepare you for the rest of your life. It requires a lot of thinking on your feet. And I really do feel like a lot of what I did as a catcher kind of flows into what I'm doing now. You have to, notice patterns in the batters on the other team. You have to constantly be aware of what's going on around you. Is this person that's up to bat now, what did they do the previous at bat? What did they do the last time you played them? Did they set up differently from the last time they were up at bat? What pitches are working? Who's out of position? How many outs are there? Who's the umpire? All of these things you need to be aware of, and you're just constantly analyzing what's going on in front of you. I feel like really helps me now as a forensic accountant. I've since moved to first base, like every other catcher in history.
Natural, right?
Joe Mauer. I've moved to first base, but I still play. I play slow pitch softball now, and I play on tournament teams. So, play a few tournaments a year, travel a little bit to Florida, Myrtle Beach. It's fun. I really like to play. For me, it's something that I can do where anything that's going on off the field, whether it's personal or professional, it's an hour to a week where I only focus on what's right in front of me. And so I really like to still play softball. I love to cook. And as you can probably see behind me, I love my plants and trying to keep them alive. It's hard. I live in an apartment building in Hoboken, and I'm lower to the ground, so I don't get a lot of natural light in here. So have to get plants that aren't needy, but those are kind of my three areas of passion outside of work. And I love hanging out with my family too. My parents live at the shore, and my brother lives pretty close too. So pretty close family, and I like seeing them too.
It's interesting. I think you and I had mentioned, we had talked one time about the fact that you were a catcher. I was also a catcher. I played, high school baseball and played in college, and I was a catcher. And I would agree with you. I think I think for me, I like being the catcher because I felt like I was, obviously I think the pitcher is probably the one with the most amount of control, but outside the pitcher, you pretty much have the most control of any other position on the field, right? You're calling the pitches, you're like you said, like making sure everybody's in the right position, and you got a million different things going on at once, and it's a lot of activity and stuff like that. But I like that. I felt like that prepared me to be a leader, and leader on the field and stuff like that, and kind of translate my work life a little bit.
I agree, and it's about managing personalities too, because your pitchers are all different. And in softball, it's a little bit different because you don't have the need for days off. In fast pitch tournaments, our pitchers maybe had two pitchers, and we'd play 8 games in a weekend, and they could pitch 4 and 4, and that's the way it's less stress on your shoulder, throwing underhand. But still, one person is different from another person, so you need to be able to recognize, is the pitcher rattled? Are they having a bad day? Is something going on that maybe someone else wouldn't necessarily notice? And that's in addition to the actual play on the field. So I always felt like almost like a part-time therapist as well.
You see, I'm like laughing and smiling as you're saying this, because I'm just going back to some of the conversations I've had with, some of the pitchers who are some of my closest friends, growing up. And it's just like, it's like, how about throwing a strike today? How about not throwing a 55-foot fastball when it's like 35 degrees out and flurrying out, in April,
and
I'm tired of like flying balls,
I was so lucky in the sense that every pitcher I ever caught for was so incredibly talented. I was very lucky in high school to catch for two girls who just were two of the best pitchers in the state. So they made my life very easy. And even in travel outside of just the town, my travel team, I caught for a pitcher who was through absolute gas and was also just so easy to work with. So I'm very lucky throughout my catching career, even on to college as well, like catching for really talented pitchers. So I think that they frequently made me look better than I actually was, but I think it's the hardest position on the field. And I say this not being able to throw a pitch underhand for my life. I can't do it. But I think that what goes into catching and all that's required of you as a catcher to be good at it it's a hard position. You have to be a little bit. I know they say this about catchers and goalies, and you have to have a certain mindset to be able to put yourself out there in that position, because when you mess up, it's obvious.
I know you have obviously catchers are the field generals. A lot of time they call it catchers, like the field generals out there, and and again, as you know as well as I do, a lot of catchers become major league coaches because they have
Mhm.
that leadership and that command and that they know what it takes to succeed, and they see the pitches and they see the plays in the field, and
Yeah.
I think I've always wanted to get into coaching a little bit more. I've coached a little bit here and there, but not you know not enough to really get into it. So, but I wish I would have spent a little more time doing some coaching, but it is what it is. I still have time, I guess, right?
Yeah, I would love to once I stop playing, I would love to coach, but I do really feel like what I learned on the field really, and how to be a good teammate, really translates to your professional life. And how to treat people with respect and get the most out of your teammates. If you know how to do that, you can be a good employee as well. So I really feel lucky that I had such a good experience with sports, because I feel like it's really helped me as an adult in my career.
It's definitely translatable. I know you start talking about like being a good teammate and you know uh, some of the attributes of being a good team, a team player, or just some of the core values that we have at FAZ.
Mhm.
A lot of that resonates with professional sports. I think
Mhm.
we're obviously very much into sports at FAZ, and we're all passionate. We all have different teams that we like, and we're all passionate about it. And but I think a lot of that goes into our core values about being a team player, being accountable,
Yeah.
treating each other with respect and things like that. It's very important to us. So it definitely translates to work, to your everyday job, right?
Yeah. And I'm obviously still very new at FAZ, but I feel like just in my short period of time that I've been here so far, it's something that is obvious to me, the camaraderie of the group. And it does feel like being on a team.
Yeah. Well, obviously from the interview process, that like one of the first questions I ask is about sports, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The icebreaker question, because I think being a team player is very important to us,
yeah,
and I think you know that obviously in your short time here, it's very important. If you're not a team player, you know obviously we're all we work as a team, we work on projects as a team, and we're all about being team players. So that's interesting. That's a good segue. To my last question I wanted to ask you today is about what is something that everybody should know about you.
oh gosh. What is something that everybody should know about me? Man, that's a tough question. I think that for me, I am always trying to appreciate what's in front of me, and I try not to take any day for granted. So I think that's obvious a lot in what I'm doing outside of work, but also at work as well. So I travel. I just went to the Olympics this summer. I got to see three women's soccer matches. So I saw the U.S. women's national team beat Germany in the semifinal, which was really cool. I went to Portugal last summer. I spend a lot of time at the shore with my family, and I just really appreciate kind of every day that I have, that I'm healthy and you know, can go about my business. And I try to be that way with work as well. So I appreciate every opportunity that I have, and I try to do the best that I can on every single engagement or any interaction I have with people, whether it's a networking event or even this week I'm meeting with somebody in kind of like a mentor type relationship, and I just really try to bring kind of a positive and optimistic outlook to everything that I do. And I think that's an important part of my personality, because nothing is guaranteed. So I try to get the most out of every day that I can. And I think that's you can see that in either my work product or what I'm doing outside of work. I like to play sports. I like to go to sporting events. I like to go to concerts. I feel like I'm always doing something. And it's just because I like to see what's out there, and, kind of embrace things that are available in life. And I'm lucky that I have that opportunity. So I think that's an important part of me that people should know.
Okay, that's a great outlook. I love it. I love it. I think I think that brings a definitely a positive vibe to everything you do and everybody around you. I think I like your approach and your mentality towards that. I think a lot of us at FAZ feel that way as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I think you're a good fit here. So looking forward to to work with you, and in the years to come, and glad you're a part of the team. But again, glad we had this chance to get together and talk and find out a little bit more about you. And I know we'll talk more as the fall goes on. Looking forward to the Giants, and
Yeah.
and hopefully they'll have a good season this year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I'm excited, to have joined the team. I know it's only been a brief period of time so far that I've started with the firm, but I've really enjoyed my time so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing. So
Great. Excellent. Well, hey, that's all the time we have today. Looking forward to maybe doing this again sometime, and maybe we'll just talk about sports and not work. I'm sure you and I could do that. Take up the whole day probably doing that, but
we probably could.
that's probably not a good thing. But in any event, all right. Well, thanks for your time today, and I will be in touch. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.